I call this January 10th organizational meeting and special meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bagley?
Here.
Mr. Birding?
Present.
Mr. Hare?
Present.
Mrs. O'Neill? Mrs. Shorter? Here.
Mr. Birding, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the election of our board president for the 2019 school year. I'm going to open the nominations, and I'm going to nominate Mr. Birding to serve as our board president for the upcoming year. I place this name in nomination because he possesses the characteristics that are most desired in the leader of a Board of Education. He has served as our vice president. He has attended the OSBA President's Workshop. He has attended the OSBA Leadership Academy. He served as the president of the Butler Tech Board. He has facilitated the evaluation of the superintendent and treasurer at Butler Tech. He has the skills to facilitate Board of Education meetings. He will devote the time necessary to lead this board. He is well-reasoned in his thinking and responses to issues, and he's a good listener, especially to our public. So I've placed his name in nomination. There doesn't need to be a second, but I'll entertain a motion then to elect Mr. Birding by acclamation so that our vote will be the election.
So do we need a motion to close the nominations?
Not if the motion is to
It's all,
elect by
I think it's all one motion.
Okay.
Motion to close the nominations and elect Mr. Birding by acclamation.
Okay.
Will you call the roll, Mrs. Lane?
Mr. Bagley?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter? Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Birding is elected president of the Fairfield Board of Education.
Congratulations.
We need to administer the oath of office to Mr. Birding.
Going down there.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as Board President of the Board of Education of the Fairfield City School District, Butler County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? The answer is I do.
I do.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Birding. I'm going to direct the treasurer to acknowledge in the minutes that the oath of office has been given, and Mr. Birding will preside from this point forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. This time we'll have the election of the Vice President of the Board of Education for Fairfield for the 2019 year. I'll open the floor for nominations.
I would like to nominate Dan Hare for Vice President.
Any other nominations? Okay, at this time, we could make a motion to close the nomination and by our vote of to elect Dan Hare as Vice President. Is there a second?
Second?
Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Okay, Dan Hare is now elected the Vice President of Fairfield Board of Education for 2019. He will now get the oath of office.
Can I take it here?
Yes, sir. You may stay right there.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Hare, will you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as Board Vice President of the Board of Education of the Fairfield City School District, Butler County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? The answer is I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Lane, if you'll acknowledge in the minutes that the oath was administered to Mr. Hare as Vice President.
I will.
Next order of business is board recommendations, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Mr. Birding and members of the board, we have several items for your consideration under new business and board recommendations. Letter A, establish 2019 meeting dates, times, and location for the work sessions, Thursday, February 7th, Thursday, March 7th, Thursday, May 2nd, Thursday, June 6th, Thursday, August 1, Thursday, September 5th, Thursday, October 3rd, and Thursday, November 7th. Time, 6:30 p.m. Location, Fairfield Administration Building and the large conference room at 4641 Bach Lane. Please note there will be no work session in April, July, and December. For the regular session meeting, suggestions, Thursday, February 21, Thursday, March 21, Thursday, April 18, Thursday, May 16, Thursday, June 27, Thursday, July 18, Thursday, August 15, Thursday, September 19, Thursday, October 17, Thursday, November 21, and Thursday, December 12. The time would be 6:30 p.m. Location, Fairfield Senior High School, Catherine D. Milligan Community Room, 8800 Holden Boulevard. Letter B, consider establishment of a board service fund for 2019 in the amount of $9,942. Letter C, recommend approval of the following standing authorizations for 2019. This time, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Lane.
Thank you. First standing authorization is to authorize the treasurer to secure advances from the auditor when funds are available and payable to the district. Our second authorization is to authorize the treasurer to borrow short-term funds as needed for cash flow purposes. Number 3 is authorize the treasurer to invest inactive funds whenever funds are available. Number 4 is authorize the treasurer to modify appropriations and advance money from fund to fund as needed. Modifications must then be presented to the board for approval. Number 5 is authorize the treasurer to pay all bills within the limits of the appropriation resolution as bills are received and when the merchandise has been received in good condition. Number 6 is authorize the treasurer to utilize the legal firm of Dinsmore and Scholl when fiscal legal opinions are required. Number 7 is authorize the treasurer to dispose of assets or property not exceeding $10,000 in value that are no longer needed. Mr. Smith?
Number 8, authorize superintendent or designee to act as purchasing agent for the district to make purchases of supplies and/or services within the limits of the appropriation measure. Number 9, authorize the superintendent or designee during periods when this board is not in session to make offers of employment directly to candidates for either teaching or non-teaching positions on behalf of this board and to acknowledge acceptance of such offers on behalf of this board, subject to a subsequent vote of ratification by this board. Provided, however, that upon ratification by this board, the employment shall be deemed effective as of the date and time of the employee's acceptance of the superintendent's office. Nothing in this resolution shall require the Board of Education to employ or continue to employ an individual who has not provided a criminal records check satisfactory to the board or who has not satisfied any other prerequisite to employment created by law or board policy. 10, authorize the superintendent or designee on behalf of this board to accept resignations which have been submitted by employees during times when this board is not in session, subject to ratification by this board, provided, however, that upon ratification by this board, such resignation shall be deemed effective as of the date and time of the superintendent's designee's acceptance. 11, authorize the superintendent or designee to appoint substitute support staff as necessary within the limits of the annual appropriation resolution. 12, authorize the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Assistant Superintendent, Director of Special Services, and Director of Business Operations to approve professional day requests for certificated and classified employees for state meetings, workshops, and events in an amount not to exceed the limits in the annual appropriation, board policy, and negotiated contracts. 13, authorize members of the board to attend workshops, seminars, and meetings for professional development and to benefit the academic and financial status of district. 14, recommend that in accordance with Section 3313.26 ORC that the board waive the reading of minutes from previous meetings. That concludes the items that we have for your consideration, letters A through C, and at this time I'll turn it back over to Mr. Birding for letter D.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Item D is appointments to OSBA and city committees. First item there is the legislative liaison to OSBA. And Mrs. Shorter, you've done that in years past. Would you like to continue to do that?
I would, thank you.
Okay, great. So please note, Mrs. Belina Shorter will serve as the legislative liaison to OSBA. And I think we have a staff member, Chrissy Zaboro, is that correct?
That is correct, Chrissy Zaboro.
And she is going to serve as our appointment to the Parks and Recreation Board. And Mr. Bagley, would you like to continue to be on the Planning Commission?
Yes, it would.
Okay, so please note that Brian Bailey will serve on the Planning Commission. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendations, letters A through D.
So moved.
Seconded.
Is there any discussion?
None.
Thank you. Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes,
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
motion passes.